Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of VOX VOMITUS this week. I am Jennifer Ann Gordon, the author of Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, and Pretty Ugly, and now I can sort of officially say it, the soon-to-be-released collection, The Japanese Box, which is, as of today, got a release date of August 1st through Last Waltz Publishing. So I can finally say the date. Joining me today, as always, is my Vox Vomitus vixen, Allison Martine, author of the Bourbon Books, which includes Dibs, Since September, Move on Melinda, and Climb the Salmon Lather. Joining us today, all the way from Sri Lanka, where it's already tomorrow, it's the future, coming from the future, our good friend Amanda Jayatissa, author of You're Invited. You might remember her because she was also on our show before for the incredible novel My Sweet Girl, which we are still talking about and obsessed with. But Amanda, thank you for coming to us from the future or your very early morning and talking to us all about Sri Lankan weddings and revenge and psychological intrigue with You're Invited.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jennifer and Allison. I'm so excited to be on the show. Second time. I feel so honored.
We should start getting like jackets for people like on Saturday Night Live if they've made enough, like, or just like a
little patches, like little buttons.
Like
they get a little scarf.
Yeah.
Like they're generals in the military. I'm a 5-star guest, you know?
Yes. All right. Get on that. Someone.
We don't have merch yet. Yeah, your dog's doing it. That's
we should probably get on that.
So far, the only Vox merch we have is when Kelly Hitchcock made herself a trophy after we did like our favorite books, and we said these aren't real awards, but she's like, I don't care that they aren't real awards. I'm taking the trophy, and she made one herself. Nice. That's our first official.
No, Allison froze. Is Allison, are you frozen?
I might be. I'm plugged in though. Do you see me now?
Yep, we see you now.
Great.
So Amanda, again, thank you for coming back. Tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about your novel, whatever you can remember, of You're Invited.
We'll catch you up. We're a little bit more fresh with it if you don't remember the book you wrote back then.
That'll be so bad if I've just been like, yeah, I can't. No.
I can't. And this book was, who was in it? This one wasn't.
Gavi.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I remember. I'm not so bad yet, I think. I don't know. You can correct me if I make any mistakes.
Look, it's early for you, so any mistakes you make, we'll just blame on the time difference. You're like, it's fine. I don't know what's happening. This is like a lucid dream for you.
Yeah, it is, really. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's go. So You're Invited. It starts when Amaya, who hasn't spoken to her ex-best friend in like 5-something years, receives an invitation from her and learns that her ex-best friend is marrying her ex-boyfriend.
That bitch.
I know. I was just about to say that bitch.
That's like just the automatic knee-jerk reaction you hear there. You're like,
I know. When I read the premise of the book, I went, that bitch, and then hit buy. I was like, okay.
Right? It's like, there's a girl code, and there's like, she is not following the girl code. No. And so Amaya, understandably, absolutely enraged, flies back to Sri Lanka, where Kavi, her ex-best friend, and Spencer, her ex-boyfriend, are throwing this extravagant, elaborate Sri Lankan wedding with the idea that she will do whatever it takes to stop this wedding from happening. But then the bride disappears, is assumed murdered, and all fingers point to Amaya, who has to prove her innocence, if she is innocent, before it's too late.
I absolutely love this book. I even love the characters that you're supposed to hate. Even for a while.
The one's the best.
Oh my god, because like Kavi's, she's an influencer, the ex-best friend. And so she's that type of person that you just look at on Instagram and go, oh, I hate them.
I hate you.
I hate you so much. So I was just imagining what an Instagram influencer and kind of maybe a possible rich boy, quote unquote, what their wedding would look like, because I did go
Sri
down the
Lanka.
rabbit hole of like Sri Lankan weddings, and I was just like, oh, these are already amazing. Can you imagine if you were
intense.
doing it specifically
To impress
Right.
to
everybody.
impress people on Instagram?
Guys, there was an elephant. My wedding didn't have an elephant.
Neither did mine, and I'm Sri Lankan. So hey.
Well, and I
Well,
think that's
that's
me
your
about, like,
fault.
you're
then.
not supposed to have these anymore. Like the animal rights activists are like, you're not supposed to do it. It's like, yeah, but we're doing it.
Oh, no.
anyway because
You're
you know,
not.
we're-
You're actually not supposed to have them anymore. It was very commonplace. I think maybe like when I was very young, but the government kind of cracked down on it as well. They were like, no more elephants at weddings.
Well, seriously, I mean, I think the same thing with the zoos out here. Used to get to ride elephants. Now they're
Yeah.
like, we're not doing that to the elephants. The elephants don't want your kid on the back kicking them all day long. It's like, poor elephant.
Right.
I know. I remember I was talking to my husband about riding elephants yesterday, weirdly, because I was saying, one of my regrets is that even though I know the elephant would have hated it, is riding an elephant, because my parents
know
wouldn't
they
let
hated
me at our zoo. And my husband was in Thailand, and he, years and years ago, but he was allowed to ride an elephant. And I'm like, oh, I guess we'd have to go to Thailand to ride an elephant now.
Where don't they protect the animals so well? Let's go. That's
Oh,
terrible.
no.
You're a vegetarian. I expect better.
I know. I'm like,
from
I'm a
you.
vegetarian. I shouldn't think those things.
I'm like, hold on, Jennifer. There are no bears in Russia. What is Roman talking about? There are elephants in Russia. That's not where they live. But he was somewhere else. That makes
He
more
was
sense.
somewhere else.
This
So
is not the
how
same.
did you, I mean, this is a great idea and premise for a book. Like, it's so like blurbable and amazing. Did you ever have an ex-best friend who dated one of your boyfriends? Did you have somebody in your life that broke girl code?
No,
Have you ever broken
I
girl
do.
code?
No,
I'm like,
no.
I
I stick very strongly to the girl code. But it's really, really funny actually, because a very close family member of mine, I only learned about this like after the book was published.
And now all the secrets come out.
No, it was so wild because she messaged me, and I think this would have happened to her around the same time that I was writing the book, but I wasn't aware at all. But she like
It
messaged
was
me. She
in the
like,
universe.
"Hey," and she was like, "Hey, did you draw inspiration from what happened to me?"
What?
And I was like, no, tell me more. I'm like, what happened to you? Like, tell me more about this. And she was like, dude, exactly what happened in your book, minus the murder.
Minus everybody.
minus blood in the hotel room.
No, she had her boyfriend and her, and like, well, now ex-best friend, but they were actually best friends at the time, and it was like this whole thing, which was wild. Yeah. So I guess it does happen.
Right? I mean, I had 2 girlfriends date my exes like immediately after I did, but it was also within the confines of church camp stuff when we were in high school. And if there is nothing more incestuous than church camp dating relationships, so while it's not,
I was going to say, dating in a theater community is also
it's exactly this. It's exactly the same. They're basically
there's only so many.
Well, first off, in the theater community, most of the guys aren't straight, so you have very limited pickings if you want to date a straight guy, because some of them are dating each other, and then they're not really interested in what you're doing over there. So it's who to choose from. But
I think it's always the same in any kind of smaller community, right? Like, I mean, it is the same in Colombo, to be honest, because, like it's a very small social circle. If you go to like a specific high school or something, like it's
everybody knows
everybody. Small group. Everybody knows everybody anyway, even in Colombo. This was like a little different in the book because Spencer is actually American.
I was going to say,
white boy.
Yeah. It was like,
I mean,
this wasn't necessarily a small community. This was.
I mean, before he even had any page time, I hated him mostly just because of his name. And not that I've known and hated Spencer's, but it just sounds like the pretentious white boy. And I'm like, he's just like working his way through some friend group and just
banging each girl as he goes.
Yeah, because I was just like, no, I am not okay with this Spencer person.
Well, I didn't get that vibe from his name, but I definitely got that vibe from him
when he showed up.
Once he started talking to I was just like, no. But I could also I remember being in college and thinking, oh, that's the type of person I would have fallen for.
See, it wouldn't have
Right, I
mattered.
think-
Those guys would have been interested in me, so it wouldn't have mattered if I was interested in them or not. Like, See, one of the things I loved about your book, and you said Columbo is small, but you also threw in all of the aunties, and so you've got all these people. Everybody's there, and everybody's commenting on everything. How do you survive when everyone has an opinion about how you're living your life? I mean, Kavi is not the most likable person intentionally, but I had to have so much heart for her every time one of the aunties is like, "You're doing what?" Well, I'm going to have an opinion about that. And why are these people in my house like all the time? Like every time you turn around, there's another auntie staying there. This isn't like a one-day wedding. This is a whole spectacle with multiple days and pre-things. Like there's the ceremony on one day where there's like the religious thing, and then there's another day and they've got to wait because there's like a special celebrity guest signing them. I love that. I'm like, they're like, oh, could be members of parliament or a movie star. No one's really sure, but it's secret.
Yeah. So with regards to like how I personally deal with it is that I'm quite reclusive, actually. I don't socialize very
I don't leave the house.
They can't gossip. They've never seen me.
No, it's just, I think, you know, when the society is so small, and this is a very sort of comical angle that I've taken when writing about them. Of course, there are like wonderful parts of Sri
You need
Lankan
some comic
society
relief in some of these.
I'm sure this was intentionally over the top and not, nope, this is just a documentary. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, definitely over the top, but also mostly taken from real life examples. So all the rumors that are circulating through the book, all those things are actual real life rumors that I've heard, are unsubstantiated, of course. But, you know, like the guy that, you know, takes a bath in a tub full of champagne for his like 50th birthday or whatever. That's an actual thing that someone told me. I was like, I don't think so. I think you're making that up. But
when I read that, I'm like, that sounds so sticky. Who wants to do that?
I was like, you're going to have to take another bath after that and then a shower. And then like,
yeah, and imagine it'll get into all the anyway.
Yeah, it will get to TMI, but it gets all up in the business is all I could think.
It's just one of those things. It's more to say you did it, to have the wealth to do it. And like there were parts in there where it's like, oh, the uncles got into the other champagne because this kind of champagne wasn't good enough.
That's right.
Like, get to the other champagne. But okay, so one of the things that you did in this book, and I'm sure I've probably read something else similar, this story was told through multiple points of view and multiple storytelling styles. I loved the interviews. Oh my gosh, that was like, so I listened to it. So I got all the different people just talking to me, and it was your narrator blew it out of the water. And some of these things, and everybody had like, you had me thinking people could have done this for everything from like voodoo, like, wait, what, huh? Like to well, she wore the wrong wedding gown and now the designer's pissed. I'm just thinking, please tell me this is not a real motive for murder. Like,
I honestly thought every person that was interviewed was definitely whoever did it. Like each time I'm like, it was them. Nope, it's this person. No, it's definitely the designer. No, it's for a while I thought I did it. I'm like, did I kill Kavi? And then
Jen,
I remembered I had a fever, so it wasn't me.
It wasn't you. The only person I didn't suspect was Nadia, because she's like 5. So I'm like, I don't think the 5-year-old did it. But
the horror person in me still is like,
still looking at the 5-year-old.
Still could be Nadia. You
That
never know. The bad seed is a trope for a reason.
I don't think that's the genre that Amanda writes in. That's, you know, it's
hey,
like
the bad
thriller,
seed is in every. It's in every genre. There can always be a creepy kid ruining a wedding.
Oh, nothing wrong with a creepy kid.
That's the sound bite for this episode. There's nothing wrong with a creepy kid.
Seriously. But I loved how they did that, because we're getting everybody's point of view and then putting together these different overlapping perspectives and timelines. And it's like, oh, this person, oh, well, maybe it's like, I seriously wanted to get out my murder
Did you want
board
to chart
and
it out?
And be like, like that, because it was, oh, I actually have the lines behind me. That kind of works. But I mean, it was like that. And I was just a pendulum. Amaya did it. No, Amaya didn't do it. Amaya totally did it. I don't even know what's happening anymore. I'll just like, eventually my brain just had to say, stop trying to figure it out. Just listen to the book and shut up.
That's one of my my things. I think because I read so much in this genre that it's really difficult for me to hold myself back from trying to guess every turn. So now I put this rule on myself. I'm like, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm not gonna just keep on at it, trying to guess what everyone's doing and what their motives are and what their intentions are, because it just makes for a far better reading experience to just kind of go with the flow a little bit. That, and I'll just drive myself like off the wall.
And I'll say, especially with books like, You're Invited, or something like Her Dark Lies, or Secluded Cabin Sleep 6, like all of these kind of like vacation thrillers where it's like people are either going to a big wedding or they're going to this fantastic vacation experience, and of course everything goes wrong, a body shows up. Like I like to live vicariously through just the vacation and party aspect of it so much that I'm like, stop thinking about the possible murder and enjoy the outfits and the food and the fact that there's this beautiful beach wedding happening.
Heck, I was still enjoying the brunch earlier, before she's even left her home in California, before she goes. Although, so one of the things you do, and I asked you this privately when I DM'd you, because I'm just like, do you just sit there trying to think of the worst possible things to happen to people? Because there are two defining characteristics of Amaya, and this does not get into her murderous nature or whether she had any. This is not,
or maybe rage problems. Who knows?
Yeah, she constantly is thinking of horrible ways people who annoy her could die. Like, I mean, just that whole
just a little quirk.
That could be fun.
Amanda's like, that's the part that's based on reality. That's
I'm like, do you just keep a list of those?
Oh no, I don't know where that came from.
Your evil
Really?
twin?
Because I feel like there's a little bit of that vibe even in My Sweet Girl, where it's funny and amazing, like the internal monologue of somebody, but you're like, ooh, that's some twisted stuff. And then we talk to you and you're lovely and bubbly and sweet. You don't seem like you would.
Or am I?
Or are you? That you would be having
a little in
like
here
at brunch with friends and just thinking terrible things about them.
I hope they choke on that oyster. But yeah, the other thing, and this was funny because Jen and I were texting earlier, and she was like, yeah, and then I'm thinking about like, and then making a wish at 10:10 or 12:12. I'm like, thanks, Amaya, because she's got these like numbers going. She's like, no, I've always done. I'm like, oh, okay, I thought you were just channeling the book here.
No, because when that part happened, like when that was like her first kind of defining trait for me, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm totally an Amaya. And then
and then you're like, no, I'm not.
No.
Nope. Back that one up.
But I do wish on the numbers. It's like, it's my my career plan right now. It's just like when I see like 10:10, just going like, I really hope blah 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 happens.
No, so that is I do that. Also for sure, yeah. Like definitely like, oh, I'm one of those like, oh, it's 11:11. Let's make a wish.
Let's make a My husband and I still text each other that if we're like in a different room, like far away from each other, we'll be like 12:12. Like, quick, look at the clock.
Make a wish. Like, do something. Yeah.
No, I loved about her because it's like there's so different characteristics. One is so dark, but then the other is like so almost light and hopeful that she's like looking for positive signs for the universe while wishing the worst for someone else. How do you balance this in one brain?
Yeah, Amaya she's definitely a very complicated character. She's someone I wrote when I think I was dealing with a lot of anxiety myself. Like this was during that.
Was this during COVID, like the lockdown?
Yeah. It was during like this second wave of really intense lockdowns that we had in Colombo. And I remember like we couldn't leave the house and I was just very anxious at the time. And something that I do to really make sure, because I write in first person a lot of the time. And I really like to like have this strong grip on my character voice before I get into the actual writing part. So something I do is I tend to journal in the character's voice for a week or two before I
I
start
love that.
writing.
Do you keep these? Are these handwritten journals like hidden in your house? That if like,
do they have different handwriting?
No.
Oh, that would have been so
That
would be
you
cool.
did. I would be like, we might need to refer Amanda to some.
Yeah, that would be a little strange. No, but it is in their voice, and I think if anyone were to read them, they would find it a little disturbing. But
I was
like
gonna
when
say,
I
like,
was,
has your husband ever stumbled upon one and opened it and been like, "Oh no, I'm in trouble"?
He's used to all the strange things
like,
that I
I don't know
do
what she's
by
doing
now.
now.
Like I randomly messaged him. I was in like a writing crunch the other day, and I messaged him and I was like, "Oh, can you research like poisons for me really quickly because I don't have the time to do it." And
Love it.
I mean, bless him.
sweetie.
Oh no, I think our marriage works because he finds me endearing rather than
Yeah.
strange.
That's
When all of
so-
a sudden it's like, "You're so quirky," and I'm like,
Right, that's the one.
"Thanks."
Yeah.
Yeah, like
quirky.
she's so original, and you're like, "Thanks." As you're like looking up, like, can a teacup kill somebody? Like, oh,
Right.
how long does it take to slice through skin? And you're like,
Yeah.
Who did this research? It wasn't me. It was for a book. I don't
yeah.
know these things.
Like everything is book research. Like everyone in my family thinks I'm really strange because I'm always asking really strange questions for people. Like I met, it was so funny. We were traveling, and I think we were in Barcelona, and there was this lovely couple that was sitting next to us, and we got to chatting, and it turned out that they were doctors, and the guy was a surgeon. And I remember I was like, "Oh, I can ask you this." What does a human heart feel like to your bare hands? Like, what does it feel like when you touch? And like the entire table just like they stopped and they like looked at me and they're like, my husband's like, honey, like really,
Really? Yeah.
this
You
is what
crossed
you
the
ordered?
line. Mhm.
Yeah,
But no, they were so good. They like explained it to me. They were great. But yeah, bless
I-
those
Come
people
back
who.
to the operating room and we can have some show and tell and you can poke at things.
See, I love
don't
that.
do it.
In the before times, and even now, still, I'm a ballroom dance instructor, but I used to take a lot of new students and meet a lot of new people, all different careers and everything. So, like over the years, I had like a student who was an FBI agent, and I felt so
Wow.
bad because he was like concentrating on learning the foxtrot, and I was like just a barrage of questions of like, tell me what it was like to da-da-da. What is the weirdest thing? And he was like, I'm a forensic accountant. It's not as interesting as you think. And then, but
Like, math.
I did have a woman who was a doctor in a prison. And I was just like,
Ooh.
oh,
Tell me
Yeah.
all the stories.
I know. I'm like, what's the worst thing you've ever seen? And her husband's like, oh, please don't ask this while we're doing the waltz. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Like, what things have you seen made into a shiv and you had to remove from someone's abdomen? Well, see, and I had the opposite stuff because I used to be an attorney and I would go in and one of the doctors I had, he was so fascinated by that he would take forever just chatting with me about how fascinating he thought it was. I'm like, I'm sick. Can we just get this over with? We can. I charge by the hour, same as you. Can we just get on with this? I'll throw up on your ground otherwise.
but an attorney, you have a plethora of knowledge that now you're like,
Yeah.
I don't use it at all. Okay, so one of the characters that I wanted to ask if it had any inspiration from any other character with a similar name is the younger sister Tahani.
Oh.
And there's one reason, and because there is a show that is near and dear to my heart where one of the main characters is Tahani, and she is so like the sister. I was like, because she had an older sister who was like so perfect. And
my
so
good friend, the Pope, that character, that Tahani.
It's on The Good Place.
The Good Place, yeah, no, that's what I meant.
Yes.
Because she's always like, "Oh, my good friend, the Pope," always
Yeah,
says.
Exactly.
when I was
Exactly. She
brunching
told me
with
when
the
I was
Dalai
picturing,
Lama,
because I was totally picturing that actress as your Tahani. I'm like, yep, older sister issues, never good enough. I'm like, maybe that's just how all Tahanis. That's just their lot in life. If you're Tahani, you're gonna be second fiddle forever.
She wasn't actually based on Tahani. It's Tehani. Well, the Sri Lankan, I guess, like the Sri Lankan name is Tehani. But no, she wasn't technically based on her. But now that you mention it, because I love Jamila Jamil, I think she's one of the best comedic actresses. Like, you know, I wish I would see her on more things. I love her.
I wrote her into one of my books, so that's fine. It's fine. I mean, she's got a different name in there. I threw in one of my books. I'm like, she's over there now. I steal actresses all the time. Like, I like.
All right. Oh, I love it. I love it. No, I think the difference is like, I think personality wise, perhaps Kavi would be more Tahani in Good Place, because she's a little bit more cultivated, I guess, in terms of her persona. Like it's definitely
because
intentional.
Tahani on The Good Place, her older sister's like kind of bohemian and all over the place at times.
Yeah. Like that would not fly in Colombo society, by the way.
The aunties would say.
It's like you're different. Like you deviated from the norm. No chance. Like you got to be as mainstream as you possibly can. No, she's based off. I don't know. Like I had this friend in middle school who used to always say there was this like middle child syndrome. And I didn't know if either of you are middle children. But
I'm an only child, so it's really terrible.
Little sister,
it's just
with
all
the
the
sister who's like,
right.
yeah, no, I have an older.
But I had an ex who was a middle child, and he spoke about that a lot.
Yeah, so I had this friend,
and there's something to it.
Yeah, so I had this friend, and she used to go on about it a lot, because I think she had issues with her middle sister, and then we had another friend who was a middle child, and she's like, they're exactly the same. They have these ways of looking at life, and they're so neglected, and they take it out on us. And like she had this like very, very strong, I don't know if I agreed with everything she was saying for sure, but definitely like she had this very strong understanding of what a middle child was. And I think definitely a lot of that leaked into Tehani, because she's definitely like in her amazing, wonderful, fantastic influencer elder sister's shadow, and she's kind of trying to break out of it. And I think as a younger sister growing up, she also felt sidelined a lot by Amaya and Kavi's friendship, because she always sort of wanted to get in there, wanted to be a part of this group, and kind of felt sidelined, which is completely understandable. But had a lot of fun writing her for sure.
Well, especially when your dad is like, my 3 girls. That's not your kid, dude. I'm your daughter. There's only 2 of us. Why is she here? And it's funny because my dad is like the mayor of whatever city he's currently in. He's a very friendly, lovely man. But he was also the kind of man who all of our friends always felt very safe and welcome in our house. And we had people who didn't feel safe at their houses, sometimes staying with us. So it's like we had extra siblings show up too. It's like, oh, now this sibling is also here for a while because like to finish off high school and couldn't be at home. So they stay with us. So it's like, how many kids count as ours now? I've lost track. But I mean, I understand that. But if you felt like I don't have the love from my parent, and then there's another sibling here I've got to fight with, and they're not even related to me, that's not cool.
Yeah.
So I feel for her.
Yeah.
I feel for her.
So I have to wonder, since you wrote a lot of this, like you said, during like one of the really intense lockdown things, was the destination wedding, was all of the like describing of the beach just your way of like staring at things and going, oh my gosh, do you remember when we used to be able to go places and eat cake in public?
And there were beaches and bonfires and bonfires.
I read this book when I just had COVID, and I was just like, I'm never gonna leave the house again. I was crying and like looking up everything you mentioned in the book online and staring at the pictures and telling my husband, we're gonna travel to Sri Lanka. We're going to Sri Lanka. I'm gonna book the tickets now. And he's just like, what?
Well, it's interesting because I mean, it's not technically destination wedding for me, right? Like this is
not for them,
and it's like a normal wedding for me, which is it can be kind of exhausting, really.
Look on your face when you said it. It's a normal
wedding. They last a week, and it's a lot.
It's like there's a lot going on. You have to wear you need to have a lot of outfits ready. It's a lot of effort, but anyway, like you have to wear sari most of the time, which is like a task on its own. No, I remember I wrote this, and it was a lot of fun for me because the Mount Lavinia Hotel where Kavi is getting married is actually where my husband and I got married.
I love that.
I love it. So you ruined the place.
I love how you ruined your own wedding location
by making it a murder book.
No, it's just wild. It's funny because it's actually like it's one of my favorite hotels in Sri Lanka for sure. It's really beautiful. It definitely has these really cool, almost like ghostly vibes because the story of Lady Lavinia, it's in the book, but I'll just recap really quickly for anyone listening in. So it was the governor's house. It was in British colonial times. Thomas Maitland was the governor, and he lived in Mount Lavinia, which wasn't called Mount Lavinia at the time. But he fell in love with this dancing girl called Lovina. And rumor has it that when he constructed what is now the Mount Lavinia Hotel, but back in the day was just his house. Yeah,
Must
just
be
like
nice to have a house that's a hotel, but yeah, when you're the governor,
just a simple little place.
Just a little cottage by the sea.
when you're colonizing, you don't care about how much space you're taking up. You know, you're not really concerned about that.
But story has it that he actually constructed a secret tunnel from his wine cellar to Lovina's house so that they could meet undetected. Because she was Sri Lankan, she was a dancing girl. It wasn't something that was obviously accepted by society. And yeah, unfortunately, Thomas Maitland was kind of called back to England and had to leave Lovina behind. Surprise, surprise.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
It's weird. Sad to see him go. I'm just curious. Like, how does she feel about this? Is she like,
rumor? Like the story is that she actually killed herself, like by jumping into the sea, which is really, really sad.
Yeah. What a great place to get married.
Nothing says dream wedding like this is where the suicide happened.
Suicide hotel. It's so fun.
I wasn't even writing like thrillers at the time. But like, what a thriller writer move, right? I mean, the hotel it's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. There's this statue of Lady Lovina, like that when you drive in, there's like a statue in a fountain. It's really, really beautiful. Definitely one of those places that like you have to go and have breakfast on the terrace of the Mount Lavinia Hotel if you're ever in Sri Lanka. It's just one of those things that are so beautiful.
It's on my list.
For when you come.
For when I come.
So that was so thinking back on like I guess like the wedding festivities, like my own and like all the other weddings that I've been to at the hotel was definitely a fun part of writing it. And also I think like it was shortly before we went into the lockdown. It was a really funny thing that happened. I remember we were like places were open and my husband and I went out for dinner. And when we were out at dinner, there was another very popular couple that were also at the same restaurant. And when I mean popular, they were of some celebrity standing in Colombo, which is like, I mean, it's a very small society, so like, you know, like everyone knows everyone, so it's not like this huge, like amazing sighting. And
I live in a little city, and sometimes people are like, "Oh, we know who you are. We've seen you." Blah blah blah, and I'm like, "I'm a celebrity," and I'm like, "Oh no, this town is really small."
No, but like, I mean, she was sort of like an influencer, if you will. You know, she takes a lot of photos for Instagram and stuff like that, you know. And it was funny because her and her I think it was her husband, they sat across from each other the entire time, just like on their phones. Like they did not speak 2 words to each other, which is, I mean, like that's fine if that's what they're into, like totally okay. But what really cracked me
maybe
up
they were texting each other dirty things that they just couldn't say out loud.
Right, like to each their own.
Maybe it's that. Maybe that's their kink. Like.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Or maybe they were on Instagram.
Yeah, no,
more likely.
I wouldn't know. But
it was funny. Like looks at their phone.
I was like, I wonder what. No, but yeah, they just were messaging each. Like I mean, they were on their phones the whole time, not really speaking to each other. So I was like, okay, cool. I came back home and I went on Instagram, and I see these like this huge post that they put up. Like I had this amazing dinner, happy anniversary, honey, I love you so much, on this photo of like the selfies with them, and I'm like, you guys did not speak to each other the entire time. You're making it out to seem like you had this romantic evening, but I was there.
I was there. I saw you.
Yeah, it was.
I saw you frowning at each other.
I mean, that's one of the themes of your book, though, too, about how it's like, oh, what's your skincare routine, Coffee? It's like, it's a filter, you know? It's like all that stuff. And how even there's a part where she talks about how it kind of fell into it for her, where people started commenting on what she looked like, and then it became this thing. And I'm just like, I can't even imagine.
I can't imagine that.
Keep up with that. Like, I can barely get a selfie before we go live on the one day a week, this time too, where I try to look like not a dumpster fire because I'm on camera.
Because we're writers, we're allowed to look like dumpster fires most of the time.
Right? I mean, it's one of the perks of the job. Come on.
Like just panicking and typing and looking like crap and then going, am I a human person? I don't
That's
even
why
know.
when I'm doing this is how you know I'm writing. I take pictures of the food I'm eating at whatever coffee shop I'm at. I'm like, avocado toast. Now you can tell I was working. That's like the signs. See, I was working in public even. And I typed words, like 5 of them.
Oh my
Maybe
gosh.
not a lot.
No, but I'm also very impressed by people who can take photos of their food before eating it.
They're not
because
good.
No, but like I really struggle with like, you know, so many times my husband and I, we're both really, really bad at taking pictures. Like we have so few of them because we'd be like, oh, could you take a photo? We're like, no, like I'm just too hungry. And we start eating. And I have a collection of photos of empty plates at nice restaurants.
I love that. I love that.
Used to have. That was this sauce. Scrape, scrape, scrape. With like a little line from the fork through. Like, I really liked that sauce. Can you see the little dots?
No, and like recently I sent him a photo like of an empty plate. I'm like, remember this night, honey? Wasn't it wonderful? It's like,
wasn't that delicious?
What plate was this? I don't know. Like if it was at home, we couldn't tell because the plates are always the same. Like, I don't know. Anything possible, you know? And sometimes I take pictures when food is funny looking because we get these croissants that I get from Trader Joe's and they're chocolate filled. And when they puff up, they look like these little turtles. You're like, look, it's a turtle. But I mean, it's not supposed to be a turtle. And then I'm like, why am I eating the turtle? It was delicious. But yeah,
no, I took my first.
I just kind of had to drop it.
I took my first food photo on our last vacation, and it was my husband and I. All we got was dessert and like fancy lemonade at this beautiful place in Budapest, the Cafe New York. And I immediately got my dessert and just started like eating it like right away. And his was so elaborate, and I was like, "Oh, don't touch it!" And I took a picture of it as I was like, but I had like food coming down my face, like, and he's just like, "I can't touch it." I'm like, "Get out of the shot!" And I'm like, okay, now you can. He was like, I don't even know how to eat this.
Nobody knows.
One of those setups.
I've had some of those things. I had like this tuna stack one time, and they had plated it in something where they clearly had it in a tube and then removed it. And I'm like, am I supposed to knock it over? Do I eat straight down? But it was maybe slightly larger than maybe $50 around. I wasn't even sure. I'm going, it's not sushi. It was this tall. This is too confusing. I need an instruction manual.
You just go right to it. Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing with like, oh, go on.
No, you go on.
Oh no, I was going to say that's the thing with Instagrammable food is that like you need instructions
that you're just like, I don't know how to eat it. I don't, or you're like, I don't even want to eat it because it's just like pretty, but I am always starving to death when I get to a restaurant, so I'm just like, mow down.
Yeah.
But
so Amanda, sorry.
I was just saying, if you take pictures of your food, then they don't know how wonderful an anniversary you had and how really in love you really truly are.
We love each other so much. Look what we ordered.
Here's our dessert.
Right?
So what are you working on now? Because this book came out, months ago. So
more books.
When's the next
one? Soon, but it hasn't been announced yet, so I'm not allowed to talk about it.
I get that.
Talking code. Maybe like hand gestures?
No, it's I'm so bad at No, I can say that it's a little different to what I've been writing so far. Genre-wise, it's still dark. It's still, of course, like
I'm like, what are you telling us?
She's like, it's rom-com.
It's like, I would love to write a rom-com. I don't have the skills. I don't think people realize like how skilled you have to be to
You
execute
do.
a rom-com well.
I write them and I don't have the skills either.
No, I definitely don't have the skills. Like there'll be a dead body there or something. Everyone will be confused.
I know. I'm like, all right, this is going to be hilarious. And then I'm like,
It's
oh my God, I
okay.
killed somebody.
If there's a dead body, so long as the rule is there has to be a happily ever after. So long as you don't kill off either of the leads, you're fine. You know, you kill off the romantic rival, you're fine. That's totally fine.
No love in the afterlife type scenario that can
Actually, I
work,
think
or-
that's a separate genre. That's like the paranormal romance thing, but you could probably get away with that too. But
Okay,
you know,
okay.
I fell in love with my murderer kind of thing.
Right.
Story of redemption and romance.
Hey,
Sorry,
there's something there.
Okay,
I'm not writing that. Not it.
So I can say that the next book does not fall into those parameters at all. But no, it's dark. It's still set in Sri Lanka. It is slightly different from what I've been writing. There are historical elements to it. Definitely a lot of kind of Sri Lankan urban legends and like witchcraft and
Yes.
like certain cultural elements,
Bring it
which
on.
I had a ton of fun researching and writing and kind of freaked myself out a little bit too while doing
Like,
it.
and now I'm never sleeping. Thanks a lot. So.
Right?
Well, now I'm
Can
even
you
more
tell us
excited.
How far back? Because you said historical. Can you tell us 10 years back, 100 years back, 1,000 years back?
Colonial times.
Colonial.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm very, very, very excited about it. It's very different from what I've written. We're actually just wrapping up, like putting finishing touches to it now. It was definitely, it's one of those books that's like, okay, it's the book of my heart, but also,
Good.
oh my God, was this a journey? Like it was, there were tears, there were like definitely like deleting chunks of text, crying, like everything, like all the emotions.
Did you have the writing, oh my God, it doesn't make sense, it's never going to make sense moment? Like,
yeah,
what
at
like
least
write?
at least once a week. Yeah, like it was just like crying. And everyone had to just deal with me. Like especially my poor husband, like had to deal with me like I'd come out and I'd be like, oh yeah, great, everything's going great. And then like a couple of hours later, like everything sucks. Why did I do this to myself?
I remember specific days of literally, again, to my husband saying, it's the best thing I've ever written in my life. It's never been more beautiful. And then an hour later crying and saying,
this is garbage.
I'm a failure. And he's just
Yeah.
like, you remember an hour ago when you said,
No.
I'm like, I do not remember that.
I don't even know what you're talking about. There was no hour
That
ago.
was not me. There was no hour ago. There is only now when it's a mess.
Well, the nice thing,
And, like-
Amanda, is because you are in a different time zone. If you ever have like midnight insomnia, instead of bothering him, you can text us because we'll be awake and we'll be like, we're totally coherent to deal with your nonsense. That's,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
that's actually the fun with. I was just saying
No,
that's
it's like-
fun with like the time zone differences because I had a friend who was freaking out 8 hours ahead and it was middle night. I'm like, I'm not feeling good, so I'm up anyway. And she's like, you should go back to sleep. I'm like, no, tell me what's going on. It's fine. I'll go back to sleep later. It's fine.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, living in Sri Lanka and most of my close friends are actually all over the world. And you know, most of my writer friends are all over the world too. And it's really wild. Sometimes I feel really annoyed because I'm like, you know, during the day there's no one I can talk to
Nobody's
about
around.
certain things. I'm like, hey, guys, hello. But and then I got
But there's
into
less
this really
distractions that way. So that's
True.
good.
distractions.
I know.
But fun distractions get your mind going when you're in that rut. You need that. You can't always just be taking a shower because showers are great for getting your mind going, but you can't just live in there.
Oh no, I will
Seriously.
engineer distractions for myself. Like I will suddenly have this like, you know, deep desire to research like how much a unit of electricity costs in my area. Like, you know what I mean? Like anything to
Right.
procrastinate sometimes. You're like, oh, I have this burning question that needs an answer right now.
Yes.
It's like in the middle of this chapter that's going very, very poorly. Like how can
Like, you
I?
know what information I'm going to need? Interest
Never.
rates for
Yeah.
loans.
Your brain's like,
for-
quick, look over there. And you're like, just follow it
Yeah.
over there. Well, have you gotten to travel, like to get to see people that you know from writing stuff? Have you get to go where more writers are? Because is there a thriving writing community in Colombo?
There are a few of us, and we
Okay, good.
know each other, and we try to hang out when we can,
I love
which is lovely, which is great. And like I said, Colombo's so small that most of the time, everyone knows everyone in some roundabout way.
The writers are like, all 4 of us.
Yeah. No, it's fun, and I think the community is growing a little bit now, as well as word gets around a bit more that that there is this way of getting yourself published, and a couple of them have reached out to me, and we've been chatting about how they could get their books out, which is fantastic. I love that. I was really lucky last year. It was like a year ago now. I went to New York for Thriller Fest, which was amazing because I got to meet a lot of my writer friends there. We had this like little group of writers from Berkley, my publisher. And we were sort of getting published in that same year, and we did make friends at the time, and we're still good friends, which was great. And I got to meet quite a few of them in New York, which was like a dream come true for me. It was just so lovely. And hopefully, as things as we move forward, and like we can travel a little bit more, I'd love to just keep meeting more people. Hopefully, yeah.
Well, you keep putting like people in California. So when you come to California, you can come and see me because that's where I am. It's funny, like,
Amanda, go to BoucherCon in September. It's in San Diego.
San Diego. Like I have no reason to go to BoucherCon, but I'm planning on figuring out ways to crash it just to see Jen.
I know. I'm like, I have to get my hotel. I'm all registered, but I just keep going.
Yeah,
yeah. Now.
I know.
It's like it's bad.
Yeah, book things early. That's always good idea with conferences, right? Don't be like me. Don't book things at the last minute because you don't know.
No, I've done that too, where it's just like, oh, I didn't do anything for this. Oh,
yeah,
oops.
then you will end up staying with me, and I am not close to San Diego. So I have to leave at what time in the morning to get in there? This was a bad idea.
3 a.m. It's a 3 a.m. wake up.
Yeah, you're not going to like that. That's going to go badly.
No, especially because I will probably be in the bar until 2 a.m.
Oh. Yeah. You might not even need to sleep. You can just nap on the car ride over.
Yeah. Amanda, you have been wonderful to talk to again. I want to thank you for getting up so early, your time, to chat with us.
This is so much fun, of course.
And we can't wait to have you back when you have your new project.
Oh, yes.
And we can talk more about things, obviously, with our words instead of just, and it's
interpretive dance moves.
Something.
My interpretive dance is terrible. It just ends up as like sock puppets every time.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today live, or if you're watching us on the replay, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel or give our Facebook page a like. Tune in next week when we have Samantha Bailey on the show.
I love her.
We can't wait. We will see